disruptive.
America that I thought weird thing to happen.
Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So, the CEO of Pfizer, Albert Bourla, it's actually Albert Bourla, but considering what a grueling monster he is, it's Albert Bourla, is terrified, actually petrified, of the idea of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. running for president. So petrified that they had to make an official announcement because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and a character like him was actually counteracting on what big pharmaceuticals were promoting on the mainstream media. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in focus of, the vaccines and health and focusing on counteracting the narrative that was being propagandized by the mainstream media scares the living bejesus out of the big pharmaceutical industry. So this came about, and it says Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla says the growing mistrust in vaccines from figures like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is an assault on science. So young and innocent that a character like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who made possible the Children's Foundation Defense Research, just came in and robbed the innocence of science. It was so young and hopeful and just robbed it away. Robbed it away of the innocence of science by providing more science and context. Someone get SVU on the line. Assaulting science. God, what a cruel bastard he is. And they even quote the lady here that's going to interview Robert Bourla here in the video. And it says, "We are living in a situation that I never thought we would live in. After the pandemic, science is who saved us." Which is why everything that COVID, the whole COVIDian narrative, it just gets even more like deranged religious texture. Like it seems like a scripture of religion. The more you get into this, the more you read this, the more the fact that, people are pledging their support to big pharmaceuticals without even bothering questioning them, without even bothering, mentioning the fact that they were trying to hide the data for 75 years. Why did no one bother to question that? No one was suspicious on the fact that you would not know if the vaccines were safe and effective on you until you're about 80 years old. Or you're probably long dead, depending how old you are. Like, nobody bothered to question that at all, at any aspect. And then she also says, it is the science that won the virus in double overtime and on the verge of a championship. But here's the video here that got released, and it's part of Reuters. And, well, I'm just a little suspicious of it. First of all, because it looks, I don't know who this woman is, but she mysteriously looks like Chrystia Freeland. Honest to God, she looks like a spitting image, a doppelganger of Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, and you know how much of a terror she is here in Canada, so I'm a little suspicious of this video. But here's the interview where she's going to ask Robert Bourla about the miracle of the science of the vaccines and how Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is such a vile monster. They assaulted science, robbed it of its innocence.
Another legacy of the pandemic, and we have seen this as we tried to report on it, has been growing mistrust of vaccines, and including in general, right, routine childhood immunizations. It has contributed, as to the rise of figures like Robert F. Kennedy. What needs to be done to counter this wider assault on vaccines?
I think it's a very difficult situation, and I would say, unfortunately, it's not an assault on vaccines, it's on science. Everything that is scientific right now is disputed. And not only science as a whole, but very specifically, the credibility of iconic institutions like CDC or FDA,
I'm sorry, but can I take the science seriously? And I know I'm not supposed to make fun of people's appearance, but can I really take this seriously with a person like that who looks like that? I mean, you see his eyebrows, right? I'm just saying, just from observation, that does not look healthy. That does not look healthy. Those don't look like healthy eyebrows. And you're in charge of the global vaccine distribution, the miracle of saving us from COVID, and you don't look healthy yourself. He is the mob leader. He is the mob leader of the big pharmaceutical mafia that has completely silenced out science, silenced out debate, manufactured this narrative to fearmonger and manipulate and scare people and segregate people into getting these injections without proper procedures, without proper scientific inquiries, and continues to deny the scientific inquiries, even though people have done research outside of this evil organization to prove how skeptical this should be. It's just a corrupted delusion, a corrupted cabal of these individuals. And they have pushed everything from lies about masks, lies about vaccines, lies about herd immunity, lies about natural immunity, lies about age group, lies about how the effects of the virus. They have lied about every single notion going through this pandemic. And this is coming from a horse doctor who told you that you shouldn't be taking horse paste, ivermectin. Which ivermectin, surprisingly, if you actually looked into ivermectin, was on the World Health Organization's top essential drugs. Top 10 essential drugs. They were using it to treat cancer patients. They were doing scientific inquiries to treat people of cancer with ivermectin. And now you're getting a horse doctor telling you not to eat horse paste. Because this guy is an actual veterinarian, and no disrespect to any veterinarian out there. I respect you deeply. I love veterinarians. Just not particularly someone like this, like a Count Chocula, weird eyebrow man person, the Albert Bourla, who has plagued this entire global, this scheme, this criminal scheme. Anyway, there's more of this.
Or EMA in Europe is disputed as objective and scientific competent to have an opinion on those topics. Academia, like opinions that are issued by Harvard, by Stanford, by French universities, by UK universities, by Italian universities, okay, are disputed just in social media. We are living a situation that I never thought we will live, and clearly I never thought we will live after a pandemic where science is who saved us, right? It is science that won the virus, right? But right now, unfortunately, as it happens very often, any health issue is getting caught into politics. And unfortunately, at large in the world, the political life is heavily polarized right now. No matter where you look, in a European country or in the American or in every part almost of the world, we don't have a normality in terms of political debate. We have a situation that the two parties, they don't talk, and they are the voices are getting louder, which means they don't listen to each other because they are listening only to their voice. And that's unfortunate. And I don't know how to resolve it, really. So I hope that things will become better because people will start listening to one another. And then again, the trust to people that they know, they're scientists, they spend all their life in doing that, will return.
Now, I'm just going to say this. I am not a scientist. I don't claim to be. I just want to make that disclaimer that I am not a scientist, for those who are wondering. But as someone who has studied science in school and, look at science and look at what scientists are doing, you're not supposed to trust it. And the reason you don't trust it is because that is not how science evolves. Like, that is the whole scientific method. The reason we have theories, the reason we have questions, we have inquiries, we have experimentations, we have data analysis. The reason we have all this is so that we question science, and the more we question it, the more it evolves. The studies evolve into different territories, and then we can have a consensus after inquiry. But we didn't have that with COVID. We didn't have that. We had silence. We had censorship. We had get in the line or you're an outcast. Or as Noam Chomsky would even say, that you shouldn't be allowed to be in accepted society. Justin Trudeau, our own prime minister, told a bunch of our own Canadian citizens that you should not be allowed in Canadian society. You who are skeptical about the vaccine. You who have your own questioning because you're curious. You have a curiosity, which is the point of science. Science involves curiosity. Someone had to be curious about gravity. Someone had to be curious about why the sky's blue. Someone had to be curious of, the dinosaurs and evolution. Someone had to be curious about water and the motions of water. Someone had to be curious about it. That's the point. That is the whole point. And you're getting your advice on silence and non-scientific inquiry from a veterinarian. And again, no discredit to any other veterinarians, but this guy is not a true scientist. Because a true scientist would be exploring even further and digging even more of his own theories and checking his own theories. So I love the responses that came after this. Jackson Hinkle, for example.
Another legacy of the pandemic. And
Jackson Hinkle says, it's easy to secure a scientific consensus when you censor all dissenting scientists. That's the thing. It's easy to come to a conclusion when you don't have other opinions. When you're telling everybody else to shut up and get into line, of course you're going to get a simple solution. But you're not going to get the correct solution. You're not actually going to get a forward-thinking idea. You're not going to evolve science without inquiry, without retaliation, without a difference of opinion. That's kind of the whole point. You build on hypothesis, you test out that theory, and if the theory is correct, you try it again and again and again, and if it comes to the same conclusion, then you can have a consensus. But what would I know? I'm just a random Canadian, jackass. I'm not a scientist. Even that Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I respect Neil deGrasse Tyson as a scientist, but when he did that one interview where he basically just yelled and screamed about, it's about the consensus. Shut up about everything else. It's about the consensus. That was the moment I really, really got to know what kind of character he is. And whether he's really in for the science or if he's really just, the same way with Bill Nye the Science Guy. And again, I don't discredit him as a scientist. I think he's a really smart guy and a nice fellow. I just think he needs to understand his own scientific methods and start questioning himself, because he needs to evolve his own theories to make proper conclusions. I thought that was the whole point of science. Even this guy makes an excellent point. He says exactly this. Copernicus and Galileo were certainly not part of the consensus in their assertions about the sun. Which begs the question, is consensus-based science actually science at all? So that comes to the big question. Is just acceptance and moving along really part of science? Or is the whole point of science to stop and think and have critical analysis of what people are proposing, and then you go into hypothesis, and then you go into scientific inquiry, and then you start doing experimentation and data analysis and research? That seems more scientific than just, telling you to shut up and get in the line. Because the other way just sounds more like propaganda, which big pharmaceuticals are known to do for the longest time. But apparently in 2020 or whenever the start of this pandemic, people just forgot about it. People just forgot that big pharmaceuticals have propagandized for decades. And just to cap it off on the whole kicker of this, because, science, I like to know what the scientific inquiry on this. Where's the consensus on the fact that the COVID pandemic drives Pfizer's 2022 revenue to a record $100 billion? Wow. They can almost fund the entire Ukraine war. $100 billion. Wow. I wonder, they should really give that to Zelensky. Could you imagine? Just the entire Ukraine conflict brought to you by Pfizer? It'd save money. It'd save taxpayer money, because we're paying Pfizer. We're also paying the Ukraine war for us to kill one another. So it seems like a good idea. But I'm just a random Canadian kid, and I'm just a YouTuber, and I'm just here to tell you that the vaccines are safe and effective. As a YouTuber, but you can judge your own conclusions and make your own consensus based on those conclusions. Do a little research, do a little fact checking, maybe do some data analysis yourself, unless that's too scientific. In case don't fall into that trap. Don't fall into the rabbit hole, as the New York Times would report on, telling its own readers not to read, because that is the most scientific analysis point we can make from a veterinarian in charge of the biggest pharmaceutical mafia there is on planet Earth. That's the scientific forward method retaliation. The science that saved us. The science that won it all. It's like the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. But again, it takes a little bit more than just consensus. It takes a little bit more than just acceptance to really understand what the world is and where it's coming to. That's why scientists still are scientists. That's why they still do research. That's why there's scientists that are trying to prove other scientists wrong or right. Otherwise, scientists wouldn't exist. If everyone was just complacent and had a consensus and just accepted random people and their ideas, then there wouldn't be any science left. The science community would be unemployed. So just note on that.